Assetto Corsa Evo. Kunos released an update for this while I was away on holiday, their 0.3 early access update. And as is traditional nowadays when something new gets released into the world, the whole of the internet lost its mind. Now, I did have a little go of this just after I got back from holiday, and I've got to say, I thought it was pretty bad. However, thankfully, Kunos have very quickly updated this update, so let's try the new updated update and see what this update is like. Update. Okay then, so first thing to note immediately having loaded into the game is that Kunos have now done away with that roadmap opening screen that they had for a while. I have to say, I think that roadmap screen is probably the thing that's caused them the most problems. To say that it built expectation to a point that they clearly could not meet is probably an understatement. So I'm glad they've completely done away with that for starters. And, you know, it gives us a little breakdown of what the 0.3 update is supposed to give us. It's got the first step of multiplayer in there, supposedly an updated tyre model, evolution of thermal behavior, update to tyre compounds. Whatever they did with that in the first 0.3 release wasn't it. So I'm hoping, well, there has been actually further updates to that in this 0.3, is it 2 now release, something like that. Augmented audio features, that was very much needed. The audio sounded very canned in some cars and in certain features of the game before, so it'll be interesting to see how the audio is improved, or hopefully improved. 1000 Hertz damping algorithm. Now, provides more natural and detailed feeling in weight transfers. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think it just means how often, how many times a second the information is being sent to your racing wheel. So 1000 hertz will be 1000 updates, I guess, per second, or 1000 pieces of telemetry going through the wheel per second. Now, to put that in some sort of perspective, if that is the case, I did a little bit of research. I do some research every now and then. Le Mans Ultimate and AMS2, for instance, are around about 360, 400 hertz per second. So we're talking more than twice as much as Le Mans Ultimate would give you, which is a hell of a lot of detail. There are also graphics optimizations. Again, this is very much needed. It seems very, very CPU and graphics intensive. UI improvements. I mean, good lord, does it need UI improvements? Some camera improvement stuff, some new cars, new racetracks, Spa and the Red Bull Ring, and a couple of new miscellaneous showroom things. Okay, great. Let's get into it and see what it all looks like, eh? As ever, we can run open mode or career mode. If I go into career mode, slightly disappointingly, there isn't a lot more to do in here. I was hoping maybe there would be some updated licenses and stuff, but it's still the same old licenses that we had in the first release way back in January. As far as I can tell, there's nothing new here to see. So we'll just click into open mode and see what it looks like. UI then, and to be honest, I don't want to get caught up too much in the UI. It's difficult for me to tell really whether there's been really that much improvement to it, or whether I'm just getting used to using it a little bit and getting used to where things are. To me, it still seems a little bit clunky. That certainly the settings screen where you you set everything up and adjust all your force feedback settings is still clunky as. They have added some force feedback enhancement stuff here. This is new, I believe, the curb effects. This is like what they used to have in the original AC. And it's got a tire slip effect one in here as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects the gameplay. This is maybe a little bit more user-friendly than it was. Like I said, it is difficult for me to tell, but I still think it needs a lot of improvement, to be honest with you. And if we go into the drive mode here into multiplayer, I mean, one of the things that I immediately noticed, this looks kind of not particularly. I mean, there's a kind of a lot of information on here, and it's not presented in a, well, it's not in a particularly presentable form. I mean, one thing is, you don't know, particularly unless it's in the description of the server, you don't really know which cars you're allowed to use. I mean, it will tell you if you click on it. There you go. It says this car is not eligible, but it doesn't tell you which cars are eligible. You then have to click into here to then see. So, you can't just pick out a server for Caterhams, for example. If you wanted to drive a Caterham server, you can't really do that. You might be able to filter it up here. What's this? What does this filter do? You know, I mean, the sort by is fine. That's sort by how many drivers and stuff. That's good. So if you want to find full servers, obviously, you can sort by that. What does that filter do? I mean, this is the thing. What is that filter actually doing? What am I filtering? What is this? I don't know. This is just a prime example of... I said I wasn't going to get hung up on the UI, right? No more about the UI. Just make it better, Kunos, please. So what I want to do is just jump in and drive some cars about, see how it feels. Now, I'm going to start in the Caterham. 2 reasons for that. One, I did a stream just before I went on holiday in AMS2, my learning the Nürburgring stream, and I jumped into some Caterhams and had an absolute blast. I also then jumped into the Caterham on this game before the latest update that they did and thought it was horrible. So this is what I'm going to use as cameraman benchmark, really, this Caterham. It should feel light and nimble and agile. There should be plenty of slip angle to play around with as well. So I'm really keen to get out and see what this car now feels like. Hopefully they've improved it. I also get to use my H-pattern shifter with the Caterham, which is always great fun. So, okay, let's take it out. We're at, I think it was Donington. Looks like Donington. So I've got my frame rates up on the screen here. And even with just me driving around the track right now, it seems I'm only getting 66 frames per second. So I think we can say that more optimization is needed. Okay, it's the national circuit. Whoa. Yeah, this definitely feels better than the original 0.3 release. There's a little bit more slip there to play with. Ooh. Now a third a bit early. Whoa, but there we go. Whoa, whoa. See, that is a prime example for me. That is a prime example for me of what is wrong with this game right now. That was just a horrible, lazy slide. And then I tried to catch it, and the car over-rotated back on itself. Oh, here we go again. See, there we go. It's just so twitchy. It's not everything just feels a bit lazy, I think. And I don't necessarily mean that in the sense that Kunos have been lazy. The car just handles lazily. It kind of, you put it into the corner and you're waiting for it to react, sort of, and then when it does, like that, you try and... I'm just going to try and run a couple of laps, see if I can get used to how this thing's actually handling. And maybe where the grip level is. I want to give it its chance. One thing I will definitely say is that the force feedback is improved. There's no doubt about that. I can feel more what the car is doing. It's just sometimes what the car is doing still feels like that. A little bit odd. I mean, this is gonna maybe sound a bit weird, but right, it feels like I'm driving around in this car with kind of a bathtub full of water on the back of it that's sloshing about all over the place. It doesn't quite, it doesn't quite make sense. This is supposed to be a light, nimble sports car. Or maybe like it's like I'm towing a caravan or something. That's what it feels like to me. Every corner is a bit of an adventure, and I almost feel like you've got to underdrive the whole time. It's something, I don't play iRacing, but it's something that I've heard quite a few people say about iRacing is you can't drive on the limit. You're constantly kind of underdriving the car, you know, kind of carefully there, like coaxing it into the corner. Otherwise, you just induce this, and in this case, in this game, a very lazy sort of oversteer that is very difficult then to rescue. Like this. I mean, come on, I've got... It just feels weird, I'm sorry. And, you know, I'm comparing this to the AMS2 experience, which isn't famed for having great physics. And I know which one I would rather be playing. I don't know. It's look, it's better than it was. I had a go in these Caterhams before they did the this update, and I thought they were almost undrivable. I can just about drive this, but because I'm getting a little bit more from the force feedback. But it's still not great. Okay, let's pull it over. Let's try something else. Let's try something else. Can't base it all on one car. Okay, so I've loaded into a server here in the Dallara Stradale, and this does feel a bit better. It's a more powerful car, obviously a bit more downforce, but I seem to be getting more detail through the force feedback. Definitely more road detail. I can feel more what the car's doing under braking there. I still don't feel like I can push. I feel like if I do get even a little bit over the limit, the game wants to kill me. But, whoops. A bit like there, I am getting a bit more detail. The car goes a bit lighter. So I'm getting more detail when the limit is nearing than I was in the Caterham, that's for sure. It's still, for me, far too snappy at times. Like sudden snaps as well. But this definitely feels more fun and sportier, like light sports car type feel than the Caterham did. Like their little snap on just got on the power a bit early there, or took too much speed, but I was able to rescue it. Never really felt I was able to rescue it with the Caterham, so this is definitely better. I mean, it sounds like I've got somebody with a shotgun sat in the back seat as I change gear, which... I mean, that just sounds ridiculous to me, but... Oh, overdid it into there a bit, but... Yeah, it feels a little bit like almost the steering is too sensitive as well, I think. You don't have to put a lot of lock on before the car starts to complain, or at least it doesn't feel like you do. Can maybe do something about that in the settings, I suppose. But, you know, this is just more or less out of the box. Fiddled around with the force feedback a bit. Basically just taken all of the dampening out. Oh. So I was just getting into a slide there. So while, yes, this is better. This is definitely better. More detail. Maybe a bit more forgiving, the car. The force feedback isn't as dampened, I don't think. I mean, like I said, I have taken all the dampening off, and I've also removed all the dampening in the Moser Pithouse software as well. So this is completely, oops, excuse me, completely sort of bare force feedback, if you like, and it still feels a little bit dampened, but it's much better. There's absolutely no doubt It's much better than it was. Right then, this is the BMW M4 GT3 then. I wanted to test the GT3, seeing as though that's by far the most popular car, or series of car, to drive in all of sim racing. And we're at the Red Bull Ring, which is one of the new tracks, so whoa! And it is against the the AI, which doesn't seem to have improved. Oh, just park in the middle of the road, as you do. So this, strangely, feels more like the GT3 cars in AMS2. It's got this weird little snap on exit when you're on the power, where it also almost feels like the TC sort of puts out a little bit too early. I've only got it on 3, so that may be why. Ugh. What is this AI doing? Oh my goodness. There is so much to work on in this game. I feel for you, Kunos, I really do. Whoop, there's that little snap of oversteer on exit on power. But this car actually, to be fair, and I suppose it should, it's a GT3, it feels a lot more controllable than the other cars that I've driven in this game up to now. Had a little go on the MX-5 as well, and that was similar to the Caterham actually, just felt very lazy. Lazy little, well, not little actually, lazy slides. They're braking very early at that corner. Still on my outside. Oh, a little too hot into there. But at least that, oof, little snap again. At least I can correct it. You know, I mean, that's one thing. The force feedback definitely feels better. I can feel when the tyre starts to give up. It happens far too abruptly. And then, like I say, you get into these sort of lazy slides. It's almost like falling very slowly over a cliff. But once you start to go, there's no way back, you know? Woohoo! But actually, for a GT3 car, this is quite good fun. Which is probably a little bit unrealistic, to be fair. But it does, it feels a little bit, to me, it reminds me of the GT3 cars in AMS2, so... Not quite sure how they've done that. It's very different to ACC. GT3 car feel, I would say. And probably an improvement over that to a certain extent, certainly through force feedback wise, it's a massive improvement over ACC at the moment. I would say this update, if there's one thing that this update has done, they're definitely moving in the right direction with the force feedback. There's no doubt about it. It maybe needs to be a little bit more... Yeah, why are they braking so hard? It maybe needs to be delivered a bit quicker. I still think there's a kind of sort of slight delay. You sort of turn the car in and then wait for the game to deliver you the feedback rather than getting this instant feedback like you do in other games, particularly AMS2, I find, with the custom force feedback that I run. So yeah, I wonder if this 1000 hertz thing, maybe it's just too much information, I don't know. It's kind of like the game is having to work too hard to give you the information that you need. Maybe just do, like, you know, LMU AMS2 400 hertz and see what happens, rather than pushing it so hard. I mean, could be the reason. I mean, right now I've got 54 FPS. I mean, I am running OBS in the background, obviously, to record the video, so that's part of it, but I've got a 4080 Super, for God's sake, and this is not graphics at full detail either. It's with DLSS and all that sort of thing to try and help it along. You know, I easily get in Le Mans Ultimate over 100 FPS. You know, I might get down to 80 FPS under big loads, but very, very rarely does it get down towards 60. And if it does, it's there for moments before it, you know, comes back again. So there's still a lot of optimization to be done. I mean, this game, again, to be fair, it looks better sorry. Whoa! Yeah, I mean, this game, it does look a lot better than Le Mans Ultimate. I'm not sure it looks better than AMS2, which runs perfectly. I don't know how Reza managed to do what they do with AMS2. It's an amazing looking game and runs so smooth. But this is a much prettier looking game than Le Mans Ultimate, but my goodness, does it struggle to run. Ugh. Okay. I think I'm done. I think it's fair to say there is still a long way to go. I mean, it's early access 0.3, so that's kind of to be expected, but we're also 9 months into this, and really, apart from the very basic multiplayer, and I have to say, an improvement in the force feedback, I don't really feel like this has gone very far. It does sound a bit better, I will say that. I think the engines sound better and the gear changes and whatnot. There's still quite a lot of canned effects, or at least to me it's canned effects. The tyre, especially when you spin, the tyre squeal feels very canned. Some of the curbs, that sort of thing as well. It does look pretty fantastic to a point, but like I said, it still needs optimizing. I mean, massively. The underlying physics, I mean, I don't know. I'm struggling. It's so unforgiving, this game right now. So unforgiving in certain aspects. The force feedback is a lot better, but I just feel like the physics engine, I don't know. Like I said, that, especially that Caterham, like I said it at the time, it feels like you've got a bathtub strapped to the back of the car, and you just go slightly over the limit and the thing just lolls around in this big lazy spin, and you try and catch it and it lolls back the other way again. This is supposed to be a light, nimble little sports car with thin tires. It should just glide across the track, really, and you don't get that feeling from it at all. So look, I live in hope. I do live in hope. There are positives to be taken. The original 0.3 update was fairly horrible. The 3.2 one has dragged it back a lot, so they need to keep moving in this direction. I hope Kunos can pull it round, I really do. They need to pull it round before November as well, because we've got Project Motorsport looming on the horizon, and if that launches well, from what I know, Project Motorsport is not launching in early access, it's just going straight into full game mode, so that's going to be an interesting one. They obviously feel confident about it. Kunos need to get their act together. You know, the next 3 months, the game's going to have been out a year. Le Mans Ultimate, from about that year point, there were positive signs. So if you want to compare it to Le Mans Ultimate and what that did in early access, they launched their GT3 package after about 9, 10, 11 months. And then the next GT3 update came kind of February. So it was about a year it had been released, and the game really started to get some traction. The lead up to Christmas and into the new year is going to be big for Kunos. You know, potentially coming out of early access for Kunos. It was supposed to be coming out of early access now, and we're only at 0.3. Dear me, I don't know. that is my conclusion, I suppose. I just don't know. It's a confused game right now. It's confusing to play. There's a lot of confusion around it. But what do you think? Do you think Kunos are going to pull it out of the bag? Am I wrong? Do you really enjoy this update? Is there something that I'm missing that I should be doing? Let me know in the comments. But as ever, if you did enjoy that video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.